Hey man, welcome back to Man Time. Today's episode we are going to be plasma cutting. I've got some end caps and footers to make for some I-beam where I'm making a mezzanine in my barn-dominium. Let's roll it. Welcome to Man Time. Alright man, well, you can see here I have got my Lotus plasma cutter. I've had this thing for about a year now and it's been doing pretty good. It was giving me some problems yesterday. I started on this process yesterday and the thing I found that was not quite good enough for the setup would be my ground. I didn't anticipate the ground being such a big factor in making a good cut with this thing. But kind of thinking about it last night, I was like, man, something's got to be wrong with that ground. And matter of fact, it was. The ground strap actually had come a little bit loose, so it was fighting me the whole time. I made 2 passes in this 3/8 steel, and the second pass it was just not cutting well. I just decided to close it down and give it some time to kind of think about, you know, is the machine bad? Is my process bad? You know, what's wrong with it? And yeah, come to find out, taking a hard look at that ground strap and that ground clamp, the strap had actually started coming a little bit loose there. So that's one thing to check, I guess, if you're having problems with your plasma cutter. But we'll just kind of go through. This is a 50 amp Lotus plasma cutter. Model number on this one is LTP 5000D. This one has the automatic starting flame, and I'm using 6-inch wide flanged I-beam, so it's 4-inch flange and then a 6-inch beam, and those are going to be the uprights to hold the runners for the roof, internal roof system in the new barn-dominium. And the stringers for the actual roof that's going to hold all the purling is going to be 12-inch, so it'll be 6-inch wide flange, and I'll have 12 of those that are going to be supporting that structure, 4 down the middle and then 4 along each side on the one half of the barn-dominium there that you saw from the overhead shot on the intro. So I'm getting ready for the footers and the end caps, although I'm really rethinking. I was going to do the footers, which is going to be, you know, a piece of 3/8 plate with 4 holes cut in it. I'm thinking I'm just going to, after fighting this thing, it might be, it's not going to be a bad deal to do it myself, and I could do it myself, and I could do it with this plasma cutter. We'll probably cut a hole here together just to kind of see what that process looks like. But yeah, I had pretty much had it made up in my mind this morning before I got started that I would just go to a water jet / plasma metal cutting, you know, specialty shop, and just say I need a, you know, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a 5x7 footer, so I've got a 1/2 inch overhang on all sides of that piece of I-beam. That way I've got a nice surface to weld to, you know, and all that. So I'll be welding on caps on either side of that I-beam once I get that, and I'll have to probably cut that to length because, you know, they just basically sell it in standard 20-40 foot lengths. Sometimes they'll sell like a 30-foot stick. But yeah, I'll have to get those. I'll plasma them, you know, to length, and then clean them up so they're all, you know, within 1/8 of an inch or something. It's not rocket science. We're not building, you know, space exploratory machines or anything. It's just a upright to hold the main roof structure. If it's 1/8 off from here to there, I'm not going to care too much. The C-purling isn't going to care too much, you know. So if it's a little off level, 1/8 of an inch side to side or front to back, I don't really care. So that's the tolerance I'm giving myself, I guess, is about 1/8 of an inch. I am going to want to make sure that it is tall enough so I can stand up walls inside of it, because I'm going to have walls coming right up against that C-purling, and then I'm going to have that 12-inch beam. I've got 3 of them on each side, so the internal living space is going to be 60 by 50, and the wall to the center is going to be 30, so I'm going to have 3 30-foot 12-inch beams. I'm going to have those exposed you know, below the roof line there, which should be pretty cool. Seeing a big old chunk of wide flange 12-inch, that just screams man, doesn't it? And I'm just, you know, this is my channel. I'm just showing you what I do. There's no right or wrong. If you want to do it a different way, this is, you know, the whole point of this YouTube stuff is to get an idea of what somebody else is doing and make that decision yourself if you want to go through that pain and struggle of doing it a certain way. Most of the things I show are going to be the hard way, which is going to be the, you know, slower way with tools that you can readily afford, versus just taking it to a shop, spending the money, or hiring out the labor and the process to somebody else and spending the money. So if that's something you're looking for, you might want to think about subscribing. If not, you know, you can go on, find another channel, or do whatever you want to do there, right? It's America. Okay, let's cut some steel. All right, well, here is my workstation for the day, and you can see here it's just a set of sawhorses with some 3/8 plate steel sitting on top there. You're going to have to make the investment in a big chunk of steel like this, but once you do, like, all of the stuff that you're doing here is saving you money in taking it to a shop and having somebody else do it. I was using this chunk of aluminum to line up a straight line on the steel, but now I've got a couple chunks cut. Again, this is going to be 5x7 to just overhang a 1/2 inch on either side of the 4x6 wide flange I-beam. And what I've got here is basically a clamp system. So let's just do one together here. I am just basically sliding this piece of plate through. At this point, again, cleaned up the edge here on this piece of 1/4 inch flat bar for that ground strap. That's going to be, you know, really important there. And I'm measuring back. Another thing you're going to have to do is figure out how much material you're losing. So this one is going to be the automatic start, and it's got this little thing on it here to hold it off of the steel, you know, a prescribed amount, 1/8 of an inch or whatever. So I'm going to run that right up against this piece of plate, but you're going to have to make a cut and determine how much material you're losing in the kerf. So I've determined from this edge to the center there is about a 1/2 inch. So what I'm doing is, to get a 7-inch long piece, I'm coming up 7.5. So we'll mark that at 7.5. And then on the other side, 7.5. Double check here. Yeah, 7.5. And then I'm taking and making sure that it's overhanging, you know, moving this piece of plate up on it. And then tightening it down with the C-clamps. And then before we get started cutting, there is probably the most important thing that I forgot to mention here is the watering of the ground. We are in a burn ban here. It is Texas. It is extremely dry. We haven't seen rain in several months. So if I were to do this over dry ground and grass, and of course you got leaves in the fall, we would immediately have a fire. So yeah, I've got it measured out, clamped down, got a good ground, got a good connection between this piece and this piece. And we'll go ahead and get our plasma cutter fired up. I found that I just pretty much run this thing full blast all the time. It seems to work best just at 50 and full air pressure on 220 single phase. But once you get that going, Man, I couldn't be happier with this this plasma cutter. Again, the correct ground just makes it super easy. This thing will actually cut up to, I think I did about a 1/2 inch on it. It was really slow going at a 1/2 inch, but on this 3/8 you can see there, turned up all the way. It just pretty much cuts through really nice and fast. And then as a kind of double check here, 7 inch is what we're looking for. We're at 7 inch right here, 7 inch right here, so we're right on the money there. And then we wanted 5 inch here, we're 5 inch right here, and 5 inch right on the money right there. So I've got, let's see here, how many more of these to go? I'm going to start with 12. Again, I have 12 I-beams, rows of 4, 4, and 4. And then again, that's going to support 4 12-inch pieces that are going to, well, actually it's going to be 8 12-inch pieces. I'm going to have halves, so 30 footers running across, lengthwise through the building. So, cut some more. Probably re-water the ground here. So some of the various tools I have up here, 4.5 inch angle grinder. As a metal fabricator, one of the most useful tools you can possibly have. Nice big 4.5 inch thick 1/4 inch grind disc on there. Just some random chunks of steel. When I cut these here, they were having a problem separating, so I set this down in the middle of them, in the middle of that cut, and then broke it kind of over, a fulcrum there. Some clamps. Sometimes these will have a little trouble separating. You can grab a crescent wrench and break it off that way. Something to measure square, so you're, perfectly 90 degrees. Of course, a big hammer, and then your tape measure and Sharpie. But the hammer is to knock that slag off of there. It's still a little hot. Well, that one's really nice and hot too. But yeah, you got a big chunk of slag there. There, takes that slag off of there for you. So. Whew. May want some welding gloves for this type of thing if your fingers are a little sensitive. Alright, next. Now, one thing you may be wondering, like, why am I using this this cheapy plasma cutter? Why did I even buy a cheapy plasma cutter, knowing that it's probably going to fail like much sooner than a commercial unit? Well, I'm not doing this professionally. I am just doing this very kind of intermittently, And the other thing is, I bought a top-of-the-line used one, Hypertherm, I think. Hypertherm, that sounds right. Anyways, it was non-functional when I bought it. Got it for $100 with all the accessories and stuff. Turns out the board had burned up, right? And also turns out it's an older model that they don't support the service, and you can't buy the board anywhere. So. Even the good ones will fail eventually. So, I mean, I don't want to have a huge investment, have the thing fail, 10 years from now, using it sporadically, and then not have parts availability. That's kind of what happened with that Hypertherm. So, let's finish up this cut here. Another nice thing about this one, the consumables are cheap and available on Amazon, so you don't have to go to like a local weld supply store, have it special ordered. Nothing like that. Alright, man, I think that was a good kind of rundown on using a plasma cutter, some of the tools you're going to need, and then what to look out for if you're not getting a good cut. You can see here, the cut from that plasma cutter is clean, like really nice and clean, right? So that's one way you can kind of tell if your plasma cutter is cutting correctly, and if you have everything set up the right way. That's going to be correct voltage, correct air pressure, and then a good ground. Those are going to be the three main contributors to if your plasma cutter and your plasma cut isn't cutting correctly. But yeah, I'm just super thrilled with this machine. Again, this cut is amazing. Very little cleanup with it turned up high enough where it's blowing that slag out of there. So, I mean, just really nice. Just really, really nice. Just a little chamfer on the edges and rounding off the corners a little bit on a grinder. And then, of course, cleaning up for welding. And I'll have these ready to go. I got about 6 more of them to go. But that's going to do it for today on Man Time. Get out there. Have you some man time, too.